exactly correct. We're back on House Bill 1245 by Chairman Powers. I'm sorry. You can pay me later, son.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized. Did we get a motion in a second? Okay. You're recognized, sir.
The bill has an amendment, and it rewrites the bill.
All right. I need the confirmation number of your amendment. And hold on just a second. Let me get on the right page here. Okay. What are you showing, Chairman?
Well, I've lost it. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's 3707. Will you take that?
I'll take your word for it.
All right.
Yes.
We're voting. We're going to vote on Amendment 3707. Did we get a motion in a second? We did. All right. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. All right. Your amendment is on the bill. Would you carry on?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this bill, House Bill 1245, it just simply gives the department, TDOC, the opportunity to add a firing squad as a method of execution for a person who's been given the death penalty. That's all this bill does. It just simply gives them the option if they want to take that. It is not mandatory, and it's not the primary way of execution, but it is, having done a survey of people on death row, that is the preferred method, and it's also often said it's the most humane and quick and the most effective method. And so if there are fewer executions done by the state, you know, that would be great if we don't have to use anything, if we had fewer people on death row, but right now we do, and right now we need to have another option for them. And so with that, I'll be glad to, oh, by the way, TDOC is not philosophically opposed to this bill. I need to let you know that too. So with that, I'll answer any questions. Okay,
thank you, Chairman. Questions? Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I have to speak up. This is in South Carolina, where they passed the same legislation about a year ago. It went to the court. The court decided it was cruel and unusual punishment. It is now being heard, as I understand it, by the Supreme Court in South Carolina. It's been determined to be cruel and unusual punishment in Nebraska court, in Georgia court. Tennessee stopped using the electric chair because for these reasons. That's why most states stopped for some time. And I just feel like this is a move backwards for Tennessee. This is absolutely not the direction we should be heading. And if you read the descriptions of death by electric chair or by firing squad, it's horrendous. As a matter of fact, as I was asking, I asked my legislative assistant to do some research, and it literally, it was very difficult for her to do, reading these accounts. And so I just really think that we should be a civil society, and cruel and unusual punishment is not acceptable in a civil society.
Chairman.
Thank you. And capital punishment is not unconstitutional, and neither is this bill. And this bill does create another option for the Department of Corrections. The firing squad is actually used in 3 other states other than South Carolina. I know it's going through the Supreme Court process in South Carolina, but that's just simply because of their constitutional so that really is not relevant to this. We're just giving somebody another choice. And you talk about cruel and unhuman treatment. I had a constituent that left for home one day, went to work, and 2 people came in and raped and killed his wife and tortured them, his wife and 15-year-old daughter, cutting them 200 times and killing them, left them for dead. And he came home later that day and found them. And you talk about cruel and unhuman treatment. It took him 33 years, but we finally put him to death. But the electric chair is still being used too, so it's still not unconstitutional either. So maybe we need to think about the victims and not so much about the perpetrators.
I understand.
Go ahead.
I understand there's some really heinous crimes, and folks need to be held accountable. We can do that in multiple ways, and certainly we can do that by making sure that they are not in society for the rest of their lives. However, it is in our federal constitution, and we are not supposed to cruel and unusual punishment because a criminal doesn't follow civil behavior. Absolutely, we know that. That doesn't mean that us as a society engage in the same thing. A civil society doesn't engage in cruel and unusual punishment.
I'm sorry. Once again, the death penalty is not unconstitutional. And when it becomes unconstitutional, you have a valid argument, but right now, it is not unconstitutional. It's not unconstitutional in the state of Tennessee. And some people, when they kill other people, when they commit these heinous crimes like I'm talking about, like first-degree murder, they give up their right to life. I mean, we want to treat people and we want to give everybody a second chance, but when they kill somebody and they take someone else's life, I actually had to come back and pass a bill because the father of those victims had already passed away because he'd been on death row for 33 years. And I had to come back and pass a bill to allow other family members to come in and witness the execution of him because he never saw justice in his life after walking in and seeing his family dead. But we need to make sure that these executions get done more quickly, and this is the most humane way. If you want to look at humane way, and the most effective way to do it is by a firing squad.
All right, Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very somber subject. Thank you for having the courage to bring this forward. Thank you. It's not an easy issue, so I appreciate that. I see the pain in your face with the issue for the victims' rights and discussing this. So my question is down the process. Who will lay out the process of the execution if this bill passes and becomes law? Will that be a Department of Correction?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. It would be the Department of Corrections. They would set up the whole perimeter of everything and the whole way to facilitate this. They would have full control over that. And in other states where it's done, sometimes they've asked for volunteers, and they've had more volunteers than people that they needed to do it, and other places where this is taking place. So getting people to do it, and as you know, when they do a firing squad, one person always has a blank, so nobody really knows who is actually doing this. So it's done both through the Department of Corrections.
Okay, Representative Towns.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, to paint the picture of the scenario, say the day of the execution, will a person be shot in the head or the heart, or where will a person be shot?
In other states, thank you. In other states where this has been carried out, what they've done is they've put a target over their heart, and that's where they've utilized everyone to fire into that particular target. That's where they've shot them, and everybody's been put. It's not like the old westerns when they stand up and put them in a blindfold on them. They're standing there and they give them a cigarette or something, But this is the type where they're setting them in a chair and they put a thing to where they can't move or whatever, and then they put the target over their heart.
Mr. Chairman. So that's the target goal would be the heart, should be instant death. However, if the guy's not as accurate with his shooting, possibly could shoot him in other parts of the body. Now, say we were members of the family, would we have an opportunity to watch that shooting?
Yeah, it would just be like any other execution that you have the right, whether it's lethal injection and there again, this is completely up to the prisoner if they want to do it this way. It's up to their choice.
Oh, so it's the prisoner choosing and it's not the family choosing. Great distinction. Didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, yeah, it is the prisoner choosing that form.
Thank you.
Leader Sherrill.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Representative Powers, for bringing this. I think it's a very good idea. And I was just wondering about, could I put an amendment on that? It would include hanging by a tree also. And also, I would like to sign on to your bill, sir. Thank you.
I was told that Utah spent like $1 million to build a facility to make this protocol right, Plus, it's pretty expensive for the training of the marksmen out of the corrections department. They continually train for when they're going to use. I didn't know that's not reflected in the physical note. I just didn't know. Go ahead.
No, and I think one place in the physical note where they're taking this from, the latest one was South Carolina. It actually cost them $53,000 to set this up. I think our physical note is 50, but it actually cost them $53,000 just to set up those perimeters in the chair and get everything ready. But they've already got trained marksmen on TDOG. On their staff, and we do too. That would already be allowed to do that. So that would be just a part of their ongoing training that they go through.
Okay, any other questions for the sponsor? All right. We are going to vote on House.
Oh, we got one more.
I'm sorry.
GI.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to the sponsor. Following up on the chairman's questions about Utah, there's a deposition with the Department of Corrections offering testimony regarding Utah. I assume you're familiar with it. Where Utah estimated it would take 1,180 man-hours to conduct a firing squad execution. And that's based upon what it took us last firing squad execution in 2010. Costs somewhere north of $1.5 million is what I'm looking at. Is that reflected in the fiscal memo and how that's dismissed? I heard you reference, I think, South Carolina. Is that right? And I don't have that information, but this is our own Department of Corrections talking.
Go ahead, Chairman.
So, I'm sure that physical review probably consulted with the Department of Corrections. I think they usually do when they're doing a note that's actually going to be administered by that department. But like I said, the one in South Carolina, that the most recent one that I saw set up, that it was going to take them $53,000 to set up that area to do it and the training.
Okay, they didn't speak to South Carolina. I assume they had their reasons, but they also respond to one of the questions that there's a 3-minute waiting period before a doctor checks to see if the inmate is still alive. Death by firing squad would not significantly reduce the risk of severe pain. The plaintiff in this, that was in this deposition, claimed, it was the reason for this deposition, of severe pain, plaintiff claims as a result of Tennessee lethal injection protocol. A person may remain conscious after a fatal gunshot wound to their heart. A person may engage in physical activity after receiving a fatal gunshot wound despite a shredded heart. A bullet fractures a bone or damages the spinal cord is severely painful. Firing bullets into the chest could result in a fracture of a rib, the sternum, or the spine. People that suffer gunshot wounds to the chest, particularly where bone is struck, often experience substantial pain. Some people have survived an initial volley of bullets in a firing squad execution, leading to a second volley of bullets. Gunshot wounds produced large variances in pain because of differences in human anatomy. there's more, Mr. Sponsor, and I don't question your motivation, but I won't be able to support your bill.
Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's, any type of death is going to be painful, and the death that they promoted and carried out for another subject was painful too. So I don't have a whole lot of empathy for people that suffer pain during an execution.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and of course, you've seen some of the legislation I brought, so there's no one stronger on victims' rights than I. However, I would venture to say that if most of this information or some of this information is accurate, that we're probably going to end up in court on constitutional issues. So once again, I won't be able to support your bill.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are going to be voting on House Bill 1245. Without objection, all right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. 1245 moves to Finance.